Yo, what's going on, E7 fam? Pat here, back to discuss the Elvira balance adjustment that'll be coming this Thursday, January 18th, along with all of the other balance adjustments. In case you've been living under a rock, Elvira has been dominating Epic 7 for the last week or so and has kind of flipped the community on its head. People were already not happy about the balance adjustment preview for January 18th that we're going to be getting this week. And Elvira just kind of made things a bit worse because the character is actually unkillable. In a lot of scenarios, when she is on the Artifact Prophetic Candlestick, you can't actually kill the character unless you have a Soulburn Ignore Effect Resistance move, or you have a character like Inferno Kawazu where he ignores effect resistance if he has certain conditions met. So outside of that, the character is unkillable, and she's become a very dominant and honestly toxic character in most forms of PvP. It has made Epic 7 viewership kind of plummet. So it's not good for spectators. It's not good for anybody actually playing with or against the character. And that's because of a couple of problems. So let's quickly run down those same problems. Like I said, the major problem is that once she has immortality up, the combination of the ER from Blood Mana and how you're going to build her, along with the Artifact Prophetic Candlestick, character is actually unkillable outside of those scenarios that I talk about. That is the major problem. It translates into like 20 to 30 minute plus games where Elvira is basically guaranteed to win. And if she doesn't win, then it's a time over scenario, in which case it is a draw for both players where they lose points. And I discussed why that might be good in one of the previous videos. The other two major issues are, one, the character does no damage. The reason why moves take like 20 to 30 minutes is the character's multipliers are just actually garbage. She has no real threat behind her, which is crazy because she's supposed to be this all-powerful vampire, and her kicks in her animations portray somebody who's very powerful. Her S3 capturing sacrifice, she literally punch you like a mile into the sky. So why does she do like sub 200 damage, it feels like, on every single move? So that's the second issue. And the third issue is one that would only really exist if the first issue wasn't a thing, and that's that the character is designed to hose fighting spirit, but only really does so if you have a good combination of speed, bulk, and effect resistance, because she could only deny fighting spirit with immortality, which means that you need high ER. If it gets stripped, the character can't do her job. If she's slow, she can't get immortality up, which means she can't do her job. And if she's squishy and somebody outspeeds you, then she could get picked off. Again, she can't really do her job at that point. So those are the three things basically wrong with the character going into the adjustments that we are going to talk about now. So let's see, did they address the issues that this character actually has? And if so, we could formulate an opinion on whether or not it's worth it to recall or actually keep your character if you've pulled her. So first off, we have hit and run. This had a 1x attack multiplier, which is bog standard, but when you consider that the character can't critical hit, it's pretty below the mark. It had a 100% chance to dispel one buff. Cool. Doesn't really help accomplish any of what this character's game plan is. Doesn't really fix any problems. So not exactly a great S1. It was changed to a 75% chance to provoke, up to a 100% chance to provoke once she has immortality. This is a significantly better S1. Yes, it doesn't fix the damage issue, but when you have immortality, you can provoke people into Elvira, and since she's immortal, it's essentially a wasted turn, right? The combination of her effect resistance means that you don't have to worry about any debuffs that are on that basic skill. And again, that damage is essentially wasted because she's not going to really die anytime soon if she actually has immortality. So this is a good change. Next up, we have a change to Blood Mana. Before, she would reduce fighting spirit only when immortal. Now, she just decreases the amount of fighting spirit gained by the enemy by 100%, just point blank, period. Great. That solves the issue that we just talked about where you felt pressured to have a good combination of bulk, a good combination of speed, a good combination of effect resistance. Like, you needed all three of those things. Now, I don't feel as pressured. Maybe I could go for a lower ER Elvira build, like have some, but I don't need like a ton, and I could focus on having really high attacks so that way maybe I could do some actual damage on the character, because again, she can't critically strike, so having some attack would be pretty good. This kind of makes that a bit more lax, allows you to have more flexibility in how you gear the character. Good change. Now you can see here the follow-up attack, Exterminate, which you only got when using hit and run during your turn, and you actually had immortality, this thing hit like a noodle previously. It was a 0.5x attack multiplier for an AoE. That is well below the mark. We are looking at 0.7 for basically the low end, and the high end is like 1x or like 1.1x. So that's where we're really looking. It might even be higher in the case of Elvira, because those are the ratios for characters that can actually critically strike. She can't, and she doesn't get bonus attack like a character like Senya, for example. So yeah, the multipliers need to be a lot higher on this thing. So Exterminate now has had its damage increased. It needs to be, again, at least a 0.7, and even then, I don't think that's enough. I think they could honestly double this and go to 1x, and it wouldn't even be that insane, because if you've watched anybody play Elvira, Exterminate usually does between like 150 and 300 damage to all enemies. That's nothing. So if you mean to tell me that doubling that multiplier is bad, I don't really know what to say. Like, it's going to do what, like 600 to 800 with how people play it now. And if you actually lean into really high attack to forego ER, like I said, or forego bulk or whatever, or forego speed, maybe you're looking at like a couple thousand damage, like 2,000 to 3,000 damage. That would be fine. That's acceptable in my opinion. You also get the ability to dispel one buff on Exterminate, so even if you don't go for damage, there's at least some value on the move. Again, good change to the character. Finally, we have the S3 Capturing Sacrifice here. It has a 2-turn defense break now on a single target for 2 turns, and the skill is unaffected by cooldown increase and decrease effects. I really like the wording on that. This skill is unaffected by cooldown increase and decrease effects. So this obviously solves the issue with decreasing the cooldown with Prophetic Candlestick, so she can't be perma-immortal anymore, right? You could still have that loop that we talked about in the impressions video, where you can soul burn her S1 hit and run in order to actually go back into Capturing Sacrifice to get immortality. That is still a gameplay loop, but the thing is, if you kill everybody else around Elvira, that is not a sustainable gameplay loop, because she straight up in one immortality rotation can only generate at maximum like 5 or 6 souls. So unless she's just absolutely flush with souls, then there's just no way that she can actually keep the loop going. So that's really good. The increased cooldown is also really good, because it gives her some a little bit of viability against things like Judge Kisei, who we expect to be very good after these balance adjustments. Very good against Lua, good against Niqual. So she has skin in the game against some of the most oppressive characters. So that is very good. It gives her some viability, some extra oomph in those scenarios. So that's, again, very good change. And that decreasing defense for 2 turns on Capturing Sacrifice, that's perhaps, I think, the most important change here, besides the decreases fighting spirit gain by 100% without immortality, because that means that this character can actually be a real threat. Defense break is probably like the second best debuff overall in like PvP. If we're taking into account the totality of Epic 7, it's probably the best debuff overall, because most bosses and things in PvE are not immune to stun. Having the ability to defense break something is massive, because when Epic 7 came out, defense buff was a lot stronger than it is now. So defense break was balanced around when defense used to be a lot stronger, like it was at launch. They have since scaled back defense, but they didn't scale back defense break. That's why defense break feels like characters explode when they are defense broken. It's honestly a pretty OP buff, and for PvP, I think it probably should be looked at some point. The problem is then it makes PvE harder, so I don't know what you're supposed to do there. Again, balancing is hard. But that does definitely give you some amount of oomph behind the character. It doesn't make Elvira feel like she's somebody who just sits there to look attractive. Like, you're actually going to deal some damage. If you've ever played with like AOL, you know she hits like a noodle, right? Soul Weavers, they hit like a noodle. But into defense broken targets, you can put up some decent numbers. You can get like 5 or 10% of a target's health if they're defense broken. I'm sure everybody has played at some point. Have you been in a situation where like you have 2 supports and a tank, and you see somebody defense broken, and you have all 3 of them lay into it with a basic skill, and that character like loses like half their health? Like, it's pretty big chunk, right? So having that on the team gives her more team utility, but also really helps her follow-up turns. So you'll basically get to Capturing Sacrifice, defense break somebody, and if it doesn't get dispelled when you come back around, hit and run to provoke them to deny their turn and then go right into exterminate for the follow-up, that's probably going to do a sizable chunk of damage. Like I would expect like maybe 5-6k total damage, and that's enough to do some serious harm to certain characters. It might even be more based on what the actual numbers are, and the fact that, again, our builds are more lax on the character. We can afford to go higher on attack, right, to lean into the scaling if we so choose. So yeah, good changes all around. Honestly, probably the perfect set of balance changes. You have a lot of flexibility in how you can play this character now. Builds are more lax. You could play for a more control-y Elvira with her provokes. If you so choose, you can go for a more damage-based build because of the defense break on capturing sacrifice. And then again, you could still just play her the way you have and not feel as pressured because of the changes to blood mana. Overall, again, really good set of changes. I don't think you need to recall this character. I think if you've pulled this character, you can confidently feel good about your purchase, what you spent, your hard-earned bookmarks, your Skystones, your Dolores on, right? Again, really good set of changes. I expect Elvira will be quite a good character in the coming months with this set of changes. So kudos to the team here at Super Crave. I think you guys kind of pulled it off here. You kind of stuck the landing pretty hard. I don't think anyone should have any gripes with these changes. If you do, though, you can let me know down in the comment section below. That's going to do it for this video. As always, enjoy the rest of your day, the rest of your week, and I'll catch you in the next one. Later now.